If you want to be a high level Upworker, reviews are the name of the game. And it's the reason why clients actually use Upwork in the first place. But getting 5-star reviews is not as simple as it is on other freelancing platforms. And if you don't actually know how to lead your clients to leave you a review, you're going to end up leaving a ton of money on the table. So during our time on Upwork, Jessica and I have figured out ways, tricks of the trade to always ensure that your clients leave you that all important 5-star review. So let's dive in.
Reviews are so incredibly important on Upwork, very similar to Amazon. So let's say on Amazon, you're trying to purchase something, you automatically go to the review section, or at least I do. And I'm scanning through the reviews to see what past customers are saying to ultimately remove the risk, right? That's why I read the reviews, is I want to make sure that my hard-earned money is spent on high quality products. So it's the very same situation with Upwork. A client goes on that platform, they want to ensure that whoever they decide to move forward with, they're going to have the best chance of having a high quality deliverable at the end of that project. So that's why you have to take reviews so seriously, because it can be the difference between landing a project and missing out on it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that always shocks me when I look at other freelancers on Upwork is the amount of completed projects that show up on their profile that have no reviews at all. I mean, some of these freelancers have 10, 15, 20 different completed projects, and none of them will have a review. And when you don't actually get your client to leave you a review, it says no feedback given, which that language doesn't sound very positive, at least to me. And I don't think that's going to look very good to potential clients either, because I think all of us deep down, we know that super happy clients usually leave 5-star reviews. So when I see that no feedback given on a freelancer's profile, my first thought deep down is, man, they must not have provided a high level enough service to actually move their client to leave them a review. So that's why you really need to make sure that getting that 5-star review is top of mind. And there are some methods that Jessica and I have discovered over years of trial and error to actually pretty much ensure that your happy clients always leave you a review.
Something else that I've noticed is some freelancers on Upwork, like maybe they started out really strong. They had a lot of 5-star paragraph long reviews, which is the ultimate goal when you get reviews. But then when you look at their recent projects completed and the recent reviews that they've gotten, it's like 3 to 4 no feedback givens. So that makes me think, oh, has the quality of their service just dropped off a cliff? Like, just because they did have amazing reviews before, but like the trending pattern of the most recent projects looks like their quality has taken a dive. So that's also something to consider, is like making sure no matter what stage you're at in your Upwork profile, you're always prioritizing reviews. Doesn't matter if you're a month in, 2 months into Upwork, or even like 10 years in, you have to keep that as your main focus.
Yeah, because clients are always going to go into your profile and they're always going to look at your project history. And it doesn't matter if you have $100,000 earned, if the last 5 or so projects have no feedback given, it's going to force them to ask some questions, and it's going to lower your perceived value with that client regardless. So, and the thing about it is, what we've discovered is that getting clients to actually leave you a review takes a lot of work. It's actually something that you actually have to work at. It's not something that you can just send them a text and say, hey, I know you're super happy with this project. I know everything went well. I'd love it if you could leave me a 5-star review. What I've discovered is that even the happiest clients, because of the way that Upwork is designed, where you give them the final files and they close the project, they're not actually forced to leave you a review. Unlike Fiverr, where you actually have to leave a review before you receive those final files, on Upwork, them leaving you a review is completely optional. And high-level clients are really busy, and so even the happiest clients, in my experience, even the happiest clients will not leave you a review. And unless you actually follow some of these tricks of the trade that we've discovered, you could have the happiest client in the world and they will still not leave you a review. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the idea of timing when it comes to getting the review. So when I say timing, what I mean by that is you need to bring up the idea of the client leaving you a review early on in the process. Do not wait until the very end of the project. Do not wait until you've already delivered the final files to bring up the idea of the client leaving you a review. You want to bring up that idea as soon as you can in the process. And ideally, you do it face to face.
So, from my experience working with so many different clients over the years on Upwork, I've dialed it into a science at this point. So, usually about 3 months before a project closes out on Upwork, I bring up the first mention of a review. Now, this is strategic. So, when I am on a call, I am on a face to face call with a client, and we know the project's going to close out in a few months. What I do is I say something along these lines and I say, hey, I've had an amazing experience working with you on this project. Please let me know if there's anything that I can do between now and when the project closes out to ensure a glowing 5-star review from you. So this does two things. First thing is it lets them know, okay, Jessica is going to be asking for review at the end of the project. And the second thing is it lets me course correct. So for whatever reason, if I sense a hesitation or if they mention something like, oh, I would really like this to be done better, or I think we need to add this to the project, I can quickly course correct and make adjustments that I need to make in order to ensure that 5-star review at the end of the project. So this has worked very, very well for me.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to actually directly ask the client if there's anything else that you need to do to prove that you've delivered on that 5-star service. And then, so not only are you reminding them about the review, but you're actually encouraging them to help you earn that 5-star review if there's anything that you're not doing to deliver that 5-star service. So that's a great, great method. And I think the idea of where and when you bring up the idea of the review is really important. You really want to bring up the review when you're face to face with the client. So a mistake that I've made routinely over the years until I finally figured this out is that I would bring up the review maybe early on into the process, but I would do it over text. I would do it over the direct messaging, or I would do it over email. And when you do it over text, it just doesn't have as much of an impact with the client. And there's a good chance of them completely forgetting about it. And again, the Upwork system doesn't force them to leave you a review, and the review mechanism is pretty hidden. So by only asking over text, you're really giving yourself a disadvantage. So we highly recommend that when you're on a face-to-face call with these clients, go ahead and bring up the idea of the review as early on as possible. And then once you actually do directly ask for that review at the end, then I think there's a higher chance of them actually following through.
And think about it, clients are insanely busy. They have so many other priorities that they're juggling, and sometimes getting a review from them can fall to the wayside. But that's why you have to bring it up multiple times. Like, I would even recommend bringing the concept of leaving you a 5-star review probably 3 to 4 times. I know, yes, that does seem redundant, but you just really want to hammer it home with them so that you can get that 5-star review. So you're bringing it up on a call, a face-to-face call. You're mentioning in a direct Upwork message. Maybe you're sending another reminder message to ensure that you get that 5-star review.
Yeah, I'd be careful with maybe inundating them or maybe going overboard with how much you ask. But the idea of bringing it up continuously, especially if you are on a project that takes multiple months to complete, that's where I would recommend, multiple reminders. But if you're on a shorter term project, maybe bring it up in the beginning and then towards the middle and then right at the end.
Something else that I want to mention is that, yes, it's very clear and simple when there's a set end date on your Upwork project. But what if you are working with a client on an ongoing basis, maybe on like a monthly retainer model, in which case there's no clear set end date? What do you do in that situation? Well, in that situation, you have to operate like a 5-star top rated freelancer. So you have to be delivering a amazing service. The reason I bring this up is because this actually happened to me. I was working with a client on Upwork for about 2 years. This client was so happy with my work. I knew that they loved what I was doing. And unexpectedly, they closed out the project due to some budget cuts. So unfortunately, I woke up to a notification from Upwork saying that this particular project had just closed out and that they already had left me a review. And so I was just like praying to God that it was going to be a good review. And thankfully it was. But that's just such a prime example of how you always got to stay on your toes. You always have to make sure you're delivering the most amount of value to your clients on Upwork, because you don't know when something's going to close out, and you just have to be very mindful of that and just to ensure that you hopefully get a very positive review.
So we talked about timing. You definitely want to bring up the idea of them leaving a review as early on and as often as you can throughout the project. And then we talked about where to do it, which would be face to face, ideally. If you can't do face to face, over a phone call with your voice is better than text. And text is the least effective way to remind your clients to leave you a review. But the last thing, even with all of that, I've discovered that you will still get clients that are either too busy or just have really bad memory that will still not leave you a review. So the last tool in our toolbox for those really tricky clients is the idea of leverage, the idea of withholding those final files, those final deliverables until the client actually leaves you a review. Now, I've actually started using this because I've found that there's a 5 to 10% of those clients who, even with all those reminders, will still not leave you a review. So what I'm doing now is I am giving them a review link. So I do video production. So I'll give them a review link, a YouTube link to the final files for approval, but I will not provide the final download link until they give me a review. So here's what I do. I send them the final review files. They give me approval. And then I say, great, I'm going to go ahead and start uploading these to Google Drive so I can get you a final download link. In the meantime, I'm going to close out the project, which I do, and I'd really appreciate if you could leave me a review. So what I've done is I've told them the final files are coming, and I've given them a task to do in the meantime, which is leave me a review. So what you're doing is you have the most leverage before you give away those final files. You're not giving them the final files because the second you do, you have no leverage. They've gotten everything they need from you, and there's really no way, no more strings to pull to get them to leave you a review. So you're taking advantage of the fact that they haven't received those final files. They're still super invested in you, and you have leverage. So our last tool is use leverage to ensure you get that review. Now, the only caveat I'd give you with this method is only do this if you actually over-delivered and you know the client is happy with the final files. We recommend always over-delivering, always providing that next level, high-level service, but you probably can't get away with withholding final files unless your client is really happy with your service. But if your client is super happy with the work that you've delivered, use this and it works damn near every time.
That's such a great technique. Unfortunately, with social media and marketing, there's not really an equivalent. So I usually have to rely on those other two methods we mentioned and just having really high touch communication, kind of guiding them along to ensure that they write that 5-star review. Another technique that has worked really well for me is actually putting together a document with screenshots of each step that the client will have to go through in order to write me a 5-star review. That has worked incredibly well. Even doing like a Loom video recording of what it looks like on the back end to have them write me a 5-star review. Now, that does depend if you have a client Upwork account versus like a freelancer Upwork account. They are a little bit different, but you get my point regardless. It's seriously holding their hand through the process to ensure they write that 5-star review. And to me, this gives me a lot of peace of mind that I'm going to do everything in my power to help them along the journey to writing me a 5-star review so that if they face any issues or like technical roadblocks, that they're not just going to give up and not leave me that 5-star review. We're going to work through each step of the process. So this has worked very well for clients who are unfamiliar to the Upwork platform and just guiding them through how to write me a 5-star review. I have worked with other clients in the past that use Upwork all the time. They know how to write reviews. They've written other freelancers' reviews. So I don't have to worry about those clients. But when a new client comes onto the platform, they do need a little bit more guidance and hand-holding.
Yeah, and maybe you even offer to hop on a Zoom call and they can share their screen and you can just point them out what to click on to leave your review. And I think if you spend enough time on Upwork, you are going to come across clients that just for whatever reason or another struggle with the interface. They struggle with knowing what to click on. So just thinking outside the box, don't let the user interface of Upwork affect your ability to get those reviews. And then the last thing I'll say is, we talk about the importance of these 5-star reviews, but there are going to be times when, for whatever reason or another, you just can't get the client to leave you a review, or maybe they don't want to leave you a review for whatever reason. You are going to get a couple no feedbacks givens, but as a general guide, I think you should aim for every 5 projects. You can probably get away with 1 no feedback given. So I look for a ratio of 4 reviews to 1 no review. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully you have some new tools that you can use to actually ensure you get those 5-star reviews. If you are interested in some one-on-one personalized Upwork coaching, our new program, High Level Upworkers, is out now. We are taking on beta testers for a free beta testing program. We have about 2 or 3 more slots left. So if you are interested, send us an email or a DM and we'd love to chat with you about that. Otherwise, let us know if there are any topics or ideas in terms of Upwork or freelancing that you'd like us to cover, and we'll see you in the next one.